Hi, folks. My name is Ryan Mallory, and I'm here on the Rogue Political Orphans podcast with Mary and Annie today. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Annie, we had you here to talk a little bit about business. Why would that be?
Yeah. Well, my name is Annie Stack. My husband and I, Austin, own a business in Southern Oregon. We owned a business in Ashland also in 2018 and 19. And we love Southern Oregon. We love doing business in Southern Oregon, and we are really pressing in to make sure that businesses in Southern Oregon can stay afloat. We all know how that's going right now. So I want to introduce myself. We own a fitness gym called Den Fitness. It's a CrossFit gym off of Biddle in Medford. My husband and I have been part of the CrossFit community for many, many years and part of the fitness community for a long time as well. And we love being entrepreneurs. We really do. We love that great privilege. We love that we get to employ several families in Southern Oregon. That is important to us. We love that we get to love our community well in that space. And I'm just here because I very much want to fight for businesses in Southern Oregon. So we know how that goes. I have 3 small children. This is our town. We love it here. We don't want to leave. We want to be here. We want to be committed here. I was actually born in Ashland. I don't know if you guys knew that. I was born in Ashland. I grew up here. My family moved to Hawaii when I was just graduating from high school. So I spent a long time there. This is actually like something most people don't know either. I spent the most part of my 20s traveling the world.
That's
literally.
So cool.
Yeah.
What was your favorite place
Yeah.
you went?
Well, there's a few. I actually got a credential to teach English as a second language. And so when I was 17 years old, my very first place I went outside of Mexico with my family was, believe it or not, China. Awesome. I went to China. I had a teaching contract there, and I spent 17. I know, isn't this funny?
That's cool.
I did a lot of teaching overseas. I started in China. At that point, North Korea was closed, so I spent time in Mongolia, and I was able to go to the North Korea border, which is something that's pretty crazy now looking back. I spent a lot of time living out of a suitcase, and it's something that I'm very proud of and love that season of my life because of what it taught me. So some of it was missional, some of it was teaching, but I went from there to a lot of stuff in Southeast Asia. So Myanmar, Bangladesh, Cambodia, all of those places. Spent a lot of time in East Africa, Western Europe. I've just kind of gypsied all over the place. So I love that because it brings a little flavor, right?
It does, I think.
And you still wanted to come back here.
Yeah, right? And I still wanted to come back here. So I think it's an interesting perspective to have gotten to travel so much. It's something that I wish for many students. I wish that for my own children. It educates you in a way that you will never get any other place than just putting your feet in the ground. And I'm so proud of those days. And I think that consequently it's shaped part of my worldview by being in places where there's not as many liberties as the United States offers. And so it's pretty cool.
Been to some fairly oppressed third world countries?
Yeah, I have. I worked at an organization in Bangladesh that was specifically for women who had been burned by acid.
Oh, man.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. And so what happens is these women are basically discarded because of what happens to their body and their features. And so I got to work with an organization that helps to rehabilitate them and give them very specific jobs and the ability to function as a normal citizen. And that's just one of many, many stories, many crazy institutions that believe differently than we do. It's a great privilege to live where we live. And yeah, I have seen a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for having me, you guys. I'm so excited to be here.
So I'd like to hear how the last year has impacted a gym owner's life. I've worked in past tense, the event industry for a long time, and so I know that we've faced many similar hurdles. But given that there seems to be that being healthy seems to be one of our greatest weapons against COVID, I've never quite got the close the gym down thing. So.
Yeah. Us either.
Right?
Yeah.
Staying home and eat on your couch and just get sicker.
You guys, my husband, Austin, if he was here right now, he would have so much to say about this.
Right.
He's like, wants to be knocking McDonald's out of people's hands. And this has been a really interesting year for us. When COVID came out and we learned of the potential risks of COVID and what we thought we were going to see happen, I think we were like similar businesses, a little leery, underlearned. We didn't have a lot of knowledge about what was coming down the pipe. And so we did what we were recommended to do, which was to close our doors.
I think that was prudent when we didn't know anything. We
didn't know.
2 weeks, flatten the curve, right?
Yep, 2 weeks, flatten the curve. We did that. And I have to tell you, in fairness, my husband was less open to that idea. He kind of smelled it early. And I just thought, gosh, let's err on the side of caution at this point. And so we did. We closed our doors. Can I tell you that's no easy feat? We had to, communicate to our members, our community, that we would be closing our doors. We basically rented out equipment, which means that they could come and pick equipment of their choice free of charge. They took it home. And then we moved all of our training online. We are not terribly tech savvy people. So this was like a big wake up call, like, what are we doing? But we worked really hard to get classes on Zoom. And you know what? I think our members were really grateful for that. There was something.
Yeah.
Of course, we gave people the opportunity to pause or stop their membership. There was lots of people who just were like, we need to conserve our finances. We have to walk right now. And we understood that. It was scary for everyone. Yeah. So we did that. We closed our doors. We did the Zoom thing. We went about it. And it was pretty early that we were like, this feels weird. It just started to feel like some of the things that were being propagated were not accurate. Yeah, when we were able to open our doors, we did that. We opened, we welcomed people back in. We actually ended up opening about 4 days earlier than we were technically allowed to. And can I tell you, we got more complaints than I could have ever imagined. And I was shocked. It was so hard not to be offended out the gate. Like, what is going on? Who's spying on us? Like all of these crazy things. Because I think in our just natural, like glass half full, we assume that our community is for us and wants to see us do well. And that we learned quickly was not the case. And so, of course, after that, we went into a time where we could open again, and then the second closure happened. And at that point, I really want to talk about this specifically because I think it's a really important testimonial for business owners and entrepreneurs. My husband and I didn't have anybody's feedback at that point because we were really the first onslaught of closures. It was restaurants and gyms that were hit so hard. Mm-hmm. There was nobody to say, what should we do? Where do we go? Who do we seek counsel from? We were really, facing unknown waters. And so I remember this morning very specifically, and I think we want to talk about it because I really think it matters that in the quietness of our home, there was nobody there. There was nobody giving us counsel or feedback. We sat and we really looked critically at the data, and we looked critically at what was before us. We looked at our rights. We looked at what was important to us, and we most importantly looked at our children. And we knew that financially we could not sustain another closure on just our savings account. It wasn't going to happen. There's only so many months that you can not be bringing in revenue and expect to uphold the commitments financially that you've made.
Right, especially with big overhead.
Totally. There's just no way. And so we made the decision at that point. There was nobody influencing that, but just my husband and I. We made the decision that we wouldn't close. And the most important part about that decision is that we were going to own it fully. We weren't going to hide from it, and we weren't going to pretend that we hadn't made that decision. We were going to own it fully and stand by whatever consequences came our way. And so we did that. We opened.
Feels damn good too, doesn't it?
It does. I got to tell you, the most interesting thing that came from that decision was the genuine peace that we felt, because now we were no longer in a seat where we were complaining and griping and, kind of bitching and moaning at the TV and getting mad. Like, now we were just in a place where we were like, this is our decision. We're going to do something about it. We're not going to be people who aren't engaged. We're going to do what we need to do to keep ourselves afloat. And with that came this huge release. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go for it. And can I tell you guys something really interesting that happened? We definitely had an onslaught of haters. 100% we did. We had people tell us that we were going to be responsible for multiple deaths in Southern Oregon. We had people tell us that we were part of the problem, not the solution. We heard it all. We really did. And can I also tell you what happened? Our business grew.
Yep.
Our business grew. We were able to recover the money that we had lost in the first closure and then some. And I think that this is a really important point because I think naturally, not just in Southern Oregon, but I even think as a culture, people are desperate for leaders.
I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys think that's true? I think it's true. They are desperate for leaders. And so we learned very quickly. We would joke that I had a part-time job, like with Consult, like getting these phone calls. What do I do, Annie? Where do I go? And you know what? Thankfully, at that point, I had a really good relationship with OSHA. And so we were able to give counsel, you know, here's what we would do. Here's how we navigated this scene. And we really encouraged people. I talked to restaurateurs that were in the negative, over $100,000 because of closures. Now, I got to tell you, the only reason I want my business to be $100,000 in debt is because of my spending habits or something that happened to me that I chose, not something that somebody chose for me.
That's right. And have you noticed when there's a speaker or music and there's a standing ovation, how it starts out with like one or two people stand up and then everybody's like looking at them and they're
Absolutely.
like, man, I loved that too. And a few more
Absolutely.
people stand up, and by the end of it, everybody's standing up clapping because most people that are patriotic Americans loved what you guys did. And that's who came out to support you.
Yep, absolutely. Austin and I went home one night and we really closed our eyes and with just such gratitude cried tears of gratefulness, because I have to tell you, all of these promises of aid and funding and help, there was nothing to be found there. You know who showed up for my business? Southern Oregon.
Yep.
Our community is who showed up. They're the ones who paid their dues when they didn't have a gym to come to.
My business does not qualify for any checks from the government.
No,
I got the Daddy Trump check that everybody else got. That was
Yep,
it.
that was
Yeah,
it.
that's paid for like my inflated grocery bills.
Yeah.
Since the
Right?
Fed's been printing money.
You know what I did? I used part of it to buy some of the equipment we're using.
That's awesome.
Poetic, right?
I love that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the counterculture. This is the anti-establishment movement.
This is awesome. I love it.
I figured if they're going to spend money that's my unborn great-grandchildren's unearned money, then I should spend it on something
That's
valuable
right.
to them.
I love it. I love it. So crazy. Yep. So we made the decision to stay open, and then at that point, we decided that there were so many business owners that were struggling, and I had found myself in a part-time job trying to answer questions, and so we decided that we would host at this point a business meeting, that we would invite other businesses to come out and to have access to the legal counsel that we had afforded and answer questions. But most importantly, we really wanted people to show up so that they knew they weren't alone.
Build community.
Yeah.
Build community. That was really important to us. And we talked about this a lot, and it's something that I think is really important, this idea of borrowed bravery. If you're not there yet, you can borrow mine.
Yeah.
I'll lend it.
It's also more contagious than Delta, Sue. If you hang out with brave people, you might find yourself being a little brave and doing a little something.
I agree. So that was our goal, was to really just infuse businesses in Southern Oregon with bravery. And I have to tell you, it was so sweet for people to leave and be like, oh my gosh, I just needed to know that I'm not alone. That was the best part. It's like, nope, you're not. And we're going to walk with you. And I feel fortunate that Austin and I had to come to this crossroads so early. Because now, you know, these nurses, bless their hearts, you guys, it's just never as impactful until it's your job.
Yep.
And that's okay. There's grace for that, because we know we all run busy lives and it's crazy, but it will always be more impactful when it's your dime on the line. And we found that to be true. And I'm so grateful, honestly, that it was us first, because it forced us to make decisions without the influx of anybody else.
You felt a little freer, didn't you?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have any outside voices
Nope.
coming in. That was
We
all you
didn't.
guys. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was an important decision. And now on the flip side of this, we're seeing this expand in ways that we never imagined. I never imagined that Southern Oregon would be where we are now. I truly didn't. And so the same sentiments are true now. You can borrow our bravery, because there is no going back now. There is no going back now. So yeah, that's kind of how that business stuff went, you guys.
So where are you at with that? Are you still hosting meetings and expanding your sphere of influence?
Yeah, we don't have any technical meetings at this point scheduled on the calendar. We are always available to chat. So I do field a lot of emails weekly. I field a lot of phone calls. We try to send them in the right spots, right sources. We talked about starting like some kind of platform where people could come have questions answered. And then for a little bit, we thought it was going to be okay. We thought, we've kind of hit a lull here, and now here we are again. So no, we don't have anything on the table now, but I do know this. We always talk about this. CrossFit, our gym, is just the means to love people. It's just, there's a million ways to do it. And for us, this is just the avenue that we get to love people well. And so that has not changed because of COVID or these shutdowns. We want to love you well, whether you're struggling in business or struggling to find your voice, or you are not sure what bravery looks like at this point. So
What if I'm struggling and need Austin to slap a cheeseburger out of my hand?
He will do that. He probably will do that. Yeah, isn't this funny? We know the science is so silly, like, not all of it, but some of it's a little silly. Like, there's so much power in a good immune system, and
Right?
we laugh that the irony of liquor stores and cannabis stores being essential, and our business was not.
Right.
And it's just so comical.
Double the liquor sales. So
Yeah.
what were households looking like that were already in rough condition that had kids in them at that point?
Right. The reports coming out of hospitals, the degree of liver damage they're seeing in young people is pretty crazy. People have been self-medicating through this misery.
Yeah.
And I think it's morally reprehensible to ignore the suffering. But like last fall, we lost 6 Josephine County teenagers to suicide.
Yeah.
Ow. Like I'm
There is something innately human and primal about seeing each other's faces. Like when we're here talking and a little joke comes up and we all laugh, that releases endorphins, that does things for a human. And if you go too long without that, it's kind of like they say methamphetamine. If you take it a long time, it's going to be a while before you can feel happiness. Imagine a teenager that's developing their personality and developing that sense of happiness, but doesn't get to see any faces, doesn't get to see their friends on anything but a phone or not school and not the different things that they participated in, extracurricular activities. You can't do wrestling with the mask on. You can't.
I'll take it a step further and say that, I think that we, not to get all woo-woo on you, but as human beings, we exchange energy when we're with people. And when we isolate people, man, like, you want to know why? Look at folks that retire and don't stay active and stay in their home and don't get out and don't have a social life. They fade fast.
Yep.
The best way to a long life is to stay active and engaged socially. We can't be locking people up and cutting them off from their peers and stuff.
What, like every prison movie on earth, what's the worst place in the prison? Solitary confinement, right?
Yep.
And what's it do to them? It drives them crazy. I mean, if we're supposed to believe the Hollywood elite and the elite politicians that apparently run this country now, and we've made them kings and queens, we've talked about that before, is it any different than what they've already portrayed to us to isolate people in that way?
Oh, I totally. It's cruel and unusual. It absolutely is, especially like the old folks. Okay, if you've lived 70, 80, 90 years, and you've paid your dues in this country, you get to end your life any way you want. You get to live those last days, and you don't lock people up. We have people trying to escape from their nursing homes. Come on.
My grandmother's a perfect example of that. She was my 6th grade school teacher. She's still alive. She's 98 years old. My grandmother always has family around. My sister takes care of her. She lives in my sister's home. She owns a home not very far away, but she can't be there by herself anymore after the last year. And she lived a block away from my mother. We visited. People always go over and visit her. It's making her live a lot longer than she would have.
Oh, it's absolutely. It's imperative. Human contact is imperative.
It's healing.
It is.
So it feels like, Annie, I like talking to you. I think I told you this because you're just a happy person.
She's super positive. I love your positivity.
You exude some serious positive. You should be a speaker, I'm telling you. But walk away from a conversation with Annie with a little bit of a buzz. Oh. How can we spread what you do? How can we smile at people, right?
Yeah, seriously, you guys, thank you. That is the kindest compliment. I'm telling you, you need to hang out with Ryan because he fills you all up. I feel like I'm gonna go run to Bangladesh. No, I genuinely feel like the glass is always half full, and I do genuinely feel that way. And I do truly think that we were given voices with purpose and with intention. And my husband and I talk about this all the time. We really were made to live much bigger, bolder, out loud voices than we think. And I very much want to live by that mantra. I think we talked about that today. We are no longer in a place where we have the liberty of being apathetic. No, we don't. I think that probably was a theme for a good while, and maybe even a theme for the generation before us. And what that has resulted in is we don't know who's leading us.
There used to be trust. So I think that's slipped away from the American public. And Mary and I talk about not really belonging to parties or not wanting to vote a certain way, the rogue political orphan thing. Everybody's disenchanted. We hear rhinos over here. We hear snowflakes over here. That different stuff. And it is all very negative, but being able to bring that back to something positive and get together and have discussions like this, people start realizing they're not the only one. I think people sometimes sit at home and go, oh man, I just have so much anxiety. I don't want to tell anybody I don't want to take that virus, or I don't want to tell anybody I wish I didn't have to wear this mask, or I don't want to tell anybody, man, I'd really like to just talk to you face to face. But when they see other people do it, when they see other people step up, it makes them feel more comfortable.
Absolutely. And I think it's worth repeating. We have one shot at doing our life well. We got one shot. We have one shot at doing it. And I never imagined in a million years that we would be on any level running for businesses, entrepreneurs, or facing the things that we're talking about. I never imagined, you guys. I was just like a scorned mother who was like, I am going to see this to its end. And here we are. Yeah. But I really do believe this. You were made for it. You were made for it. You were not made for little. You were made to do big things. And you have the backbone to do it. Sometimes we just need to remind people of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the stock here in the United States, we're the descendants of immigrants, and settlers, and brutalized people that scraped together what they could to come to a new land and find a dream. And we've got that in here somewhere. And we have the ability to weather hard times and to band together and to love our neighbors, even if we don't agree with them. Like they should love other people, even if they don't agree with them.
It's gotten really hard for folks, it seems.
It is. We're super polarized at this point. I think that fear is a huge factor. We all know that fear is terrible for the immune system. So the more you sit there watching CNN, your KTVL, sensationalized stuff, and you think about the numbers and everyone's to go, walk outside and look around. outside, not in a building where everyone's covering their face, but like if you're high risk, and I'm not a doctor, don't take my medical advice, but one would think if you're high risk, take precautions and do what you need to do that's safe for you. The rest of you guys, step away from the fear. You know, get a little perspective. Like seriously, like if you're scared of dying, like that's fear is one of the worst things for your immune system. We need a little positivity in our life. We need to focus on the good in ourselves and in other people, and we've lost sight of that through all this.
I can't use up the rest of my life worrying about dying.
Right.
Right? Now that may make me eat an extra cheeseburger, just saying.
You know what?
But
when
I can't live my life.
deathbed-
I know I'm going to die. Why not enjoy myself and live my life the way I need to live my life up until that point? And I think a lot of that has to do with people not having faith in anything but themselves these days. They think they're in control of everything. I don't feel like I'm in control of anything. I don't get to plan when I die. It's going to happen. And as soon as you're at peace with those things, it sure is a lot easier to not worry all the time and just be a little happier about life.
100%. We talked about this recently with some girlfriends, and I actually did a course recently for writing and just communication in general. And the instructor was talking about walking away from this idea of your why, right? So like a lot of times we'll talk about this in business or in this situation, like why are you standing up? Why are you going to, what's your why? Why are you for running all these things? And this particular teacher was like, I really dislike this idea of your why because it is constantly fluctuating. So I'm going to challenge you to ask for your who. Who are you doing this for? And I really like this idea because when I think about the part that I am playing in Southern Oregon at this time, as little as it is, I think about my who. And my who are the 3 tiny people living in my home. They are my who. And so I am always capable of finding what I need when I think of them, when I think of their future, and I think of the world that they're going to be offered. And most importantly, I think of who they will believe their mama to be. That's important to me. I need them to know that I was brave.
Who's your who, Mary?
Oh, that would be my kids. They think I'm a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. No, I'm just kidding. My kids are awesome. My kids are awesome. They're just as weird as me.
Mom, not another YouTube video.
No, my kid. I'd do anything for my kids, and I want my kids to be afforded every opportunity that I was afforded. But I also want my kids to make decisions for themselves. And like on this stuff, I want them to make decisions for themselves too. And I don't want them to ever feel like they've got to go along with what mom's going along. But most of the time, they're the ones that are inspiring me, to be quite frankly. Yeah, that's a great way to work. And my husband's super supportive and just an all-around good guy. And God, I love my community. I don't want to see...
So do I.
Like all the small businesses and stuff, like, how dare our governor make our small business owners and their retail employees be the Gestapo for her mandates? How dare she?
I always wonder when I see somebody that's fairly new into the world of employment, young folks, working at a job where part of their job has not become the customer service that you learn when you're young, maybe, and taking jobs and you grow with that. Part of their job is, sir, you have to wear a mask in here. Who wants to do that? And if you do,
they ain't paying enough.
No, I don't understand that.
Like every single business owner should be up in arms about that. Like even if you completely agree that everyone who walks into your establishment should be wearing a mask, you should still be up in arms that the governor's forcing you and your employees to do this.
In my business, I donate a lot of work to charities and people that they're startups and they need a little guidance and that kind of stuff. I don't donate my business's work to the government. So if the government wants me to do some work, or my employees to do some work, they need to pay for that. So there should be a $5 an hour stipend for doing government work at Taco Bell.
I think it should be prevailing wage.
Yeah, prevailing wage would be nice.
And it should come right out of the salaries of the people that haven't lost a check throughout this entire pandemic.
But that's also kind of where I was headed, because my who has changed over the years, because I'm a granddad now, and my kids are grown, and still love them. They're still part of the who, but those little wee ones became a big who. And the more and more I think about it, there is that quote, you actually die twice. Once when they put you in the ground, and the other time when the last person on earth says your name. I think that's probably like my unborn great-grandchildren, and what kind of world am I leaving for them? And if I don't stand up and it continues to erode and slide, my name doesn't deserve to be said that last time, is the way I feel about it.
That's really powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a big deal. That's what legacy is called.
Yeah. So with that, I think we should end it on a positive note.
Could we get maybe like a couple bullet points of advice for business owners that maybe are in that place where they haven't found their bravery yet, or they're on the fence? And I know a lot of good people that think this is whack, that are still going along with it. So can you give some advice for the people who think this is whack but are still going along with it?
Yes. I think there's a couple of things that I think are important to touch on. Nobody can make the decision for you. It has to be out of the own conviction of your heart, and it has to have a very strong purpose, meaning your who. It has to be very strong. I would encourage business owners to get quiet somewhere and to make the decision without the influx of other opinions. We know that there's an onslaught of data, of social media. If you could get away and be quiet and critically think through the process and critically think about your business, and here's why this is important. Nobody else ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches while you were trying to get that business off the ground. That was you.
That's right.
That was you. That loan you took out, there's your name on it. That lease you pay every month, Kate Brown doesn't pay that. You pay that. So I think you have to get quiet. I think you have to make the decision, and then to follow that, I think you have to be willing to own it fully and trust that your community is going to back you. I can tell you right now, there are so many resources for business owners who want to speak up, stay open, and say no to the things that they do not feel are just. If that's not you, that's okay. But if it is you, there are so many resources and there are so many people to support you. And I think that Southern Oregon has been astounding. You guys, when our city was ravaged by fires, people were saying, stop the donations, please. I promise you, this city will come around you. I promise you.
Yep.
That would be my first piece of advice. The second is, it doesn't really matter at this point to me what side of the political spectrum you fall on. What I am after is just rule of law. We know that corrupt government systems do not follow the rule of law. I have seen that firsthand. Spent a lot of years in nations that were not just. And I think that if you can wrap your head around the fact that there were, regardless of where you stand, that there were men and women who went before you who gave their lives for the ink on that Constitution, you don't have to be a leftist, a rightist, you don't have to be any political spectrum to give that honor. Because that Constitution is really what gives you this great privilege of entrepreneurship and democracy and safety to run your business as you would choose. And so I think wrapping your head around that and wanting to make sure that that is intact for those who come behind you. Because there was, whether you want to admit it or not, men and women who went before us so that we had that great privilege. And I think it's important to honor that on some level, no matter where you stand on the political spectrum, to honor that. So that would be the second thing. The last thing I think is to borrow bravery. If you don't have it, reach out. If you're afraid, speak up. There are people who will help you. And I know that there is nobody who's more in tune with their business than you as a business owner. There's just not. and you are going to be the only one who can fight for it. I can't do that for your business. I will never love your business like you love your business.
That's right.
You will have to be the one to do it. And if you need encouragement, ask for it. If you're afraid, let us help you. But you have got to find your legs, and you've got to stand up, and you've got to do the work. There's no other way around it. My husband tells you this all the time. People are like, I need to lose weight. I need to. Awesome. No one can do it except for you. I can't do the work for you. And the same is true here. I can't do the work for you. I will cheer you on all the way, but you've got to stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah, and there are so many resources. If you need to know something, people like Annie, you can private message me. I help a ton of businesses, and I would be happy to help. There's so many supportive people in the business community here. The Medford-Jackson County Chamber is the largest chamber of commerce in the state of Oregon by membership. Up north in Portland, it's broken up. Everybody has their own way, doesn't get along, and it gets broken up into little tiny chambers of commerce in every burg. This is a very united area in Southern Oregon, and a very business-wise area. Lots of entrepreneurs and lots and lots and lots of wealthy people made right here in this valley. The business community, I will definitely support you. I'm part of all kinds of different business groups that I go to, and every one of them is super supportive of new businesses struggling. We all want to see you succeed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think that's what we want for our whole community.
I want to see more block parties and work parties and things like that.
On that note, I want to say that the first step, if you, on the subject of borrowing bravery, if you have not found your peace and found your bravery yet, I think the most awesome thing you could do for yourself is to find an in-person meetup with like-minded people. Because simply by being in the presence of other people that share intersecting beliefs, you are going to feel not alone. And that is magic when the system almost seems to be intentionally set up to convince you that you are alone. It's an illusion, it's a lie. Find your people plugged in.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Thanks, guys. We're wrapping up episode 3 of the Rogue Political Orphan podcast.